Did closing on a house on Friday, so
Oh, heck
I
yeah.
signed documents yesterday, got them notarized and sent off. So
Awesome.
first time I'll be closing remotely. Been a pretty good experience so far.
Good.
So that's
That's awesome.
good. But yes, this is the property that I had that question about last week in Slack. I think I learned my lesson. I went under contract too quickly on a house, and I found myself locked in. Otherwise, losing out on $5,000.
All right.
So I ended up still going in with it, just knowing like it's going to cash flow, which is harder to do in this market. And like I'll have a house at the end of it. There's just a possibility that I could leave anywhere from about $5,000 to $16,000 in this deal.
Okay.
So for me, just getting started right off the bat, first property closed and I didn't leave any money in the deal, got a little bit back. And then this next one, I'm hopeful, the second one we've got, I'll refinance in a few months, and I'm hopeful that I won't leave any money in the deal either.
Yeah.
I'm just not quite up and off the ground enough yet to really leave that substantial amount of cash in a deal. So my question is, I'm driving out on Friday afternoon to go walk the property with my contractor and my property manager. And I really just want to get their expertise on how can we creatively problem solve some things to bring down renovation costs, to increase appraisal value. Any kind of tips or tricks, things that you would look for, questions you'd ask walking into a
that's a
meeting
good
like
question,
that?
because essentially, in deals like this, you want to try and figure out, how can I increase my margin, even if it's going to be thin, right? So essentially the question is, how do I make the best out of something, knowing that and protect my downside, knowing that my upside's clear, but I want to be able to make the most out of it. So I think the best thing that I recommend doing is talking to your contractor and saying, hey, what can we just not do? Right? What are some things that we could lower cost on? And what are some things that we just couldn't do or don't have to do? Right. So get that information from your contractor, figure out how much that's going to save you essentially, and then talk to your agent and ask, hey, how much do you think this would affect the ARV? Right. If we're going to actually estimate this, because if you're decreasing the amount of money you're putting into the deal, right, or as far as rehab goes, right, that's going to have a reflection somewhere, right? And your rehab wants to hit one of three things. Either it should, if you're going to put money into rehab, it should either increase the ARV, increase your rent, or protect you from future issues, right? Like, even if someone would rent a house and it would appraise at the right value, if you don't have a roof on it, it's going to get rained on, and you're going to end up ruining the rest of the house, right? Or foundation is a good example of that. It might not get seen by the appraiser, the renter might not care about it, but it might cause significant issues down the road, or plumbing, electrical, one of the big five, right? So that's essentially the question you're asking is, if I don't put more money in, how much is that going to affect those three things? Right now, you can do one of a couple things with those items that you're talking with your contractor about. One is you can completely ignore them, right? Just not do them, or you can defer them and do them later, right? So you can essentially let the cash flow pay for those things over time. Now, if you're going to do that, you need to make sure that you put some system in place to remind you to do that, right? Whether that's putting it on your calendar, whether that's putting it into notes for your portfolio review, or whatever that might be, you need to actually make sure that you remember to do those things. Because oftentimes what you can do is, when you're analyzing a property and you get the inspection back, you say, okay, I'm going to do these first, I'm going to do these right when we close, and then these I'm going to do along the way. But you're investing remotely, right? You're not living in these properties. You're not seeing these properties very often, if at all, right? I've closed on dozens of properties in the last couple of years that I haven't even seen. And if you don't put a system in place for those things to check back in, you're not going to do them. All right. So that's something to consider. And that's what I would recommend doing, is talk to your contractor, ask how many things you can just not do. Like, what are the ways that we can decrease this cost? And then talk to your agent about how much that will affect rentability and your appraisal.